Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. On this episode, we have Alex Manos of the Beverly Hills Car Club. Now, this is a man that knows classic and collectible cars. He's been doing it for a very long time. He has one of the most reputable showrooms, I guess, on the planet for the most part, because you have customers from all over the world. So we decided to bring Alex on and talk about how he got into dealing in collectibles, dealing with classics, and most important, dealing with clients. Alex, how you doing today, man?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So I have to ask you, how did you get into this? How did you get into the world of collectible and classics?
So my parents had, when I was a kid, they had classic cars.
Right.
And so my dad had a Jaguar, and my mom and dad at one point had a Volvo 1800S and an Amazon.
Wow.
And that was a his and hers car. Like they had, like my mom drove the 1800S and he had the Amazon, and that's what they dropped me off at school in.
That's
So
rad. Okay.
it was really cool. And that gave me the early feeling of and we lived in London at the time. So when we lived in London, and you drive, if just people will go, it's unusual to see a car like that. So it kind of made me warm to the feeling. My auntie, she lived in Australia. Okay. And she had a red 67 Mustang coupe. So when my mom and I would go and visit her, it was like, I mean, in Australia, to have an American Mustang, American classic, is like people are even going. It's like in America, people are excited. There, it's just like
right.
So it was just the feeling and the passion behind it. It really warmed me up. So we actually moved here from Australia. So I was born in London, and then we moved here to Australia, and then we came here. And in the early 2000s, as a hobby, I bought a 1962 Lincoln Continental, a sedan with the suicide doors.
Yeah, you jumped in with both feet.
I jumped in with both feet. So I jumped in with both feet. And when I bought that car, I was like, this is a lot. I mean, it's got electric windows, and the vent windows are electric. It was a sedan. So fortunately, my first car was a sedan. And the reason I say that is because I drove this car, everybody loved it. And it was just such a nice experience, and people were ecstatic, and it was just the positive energy and making people happy from your car. It's amazing. You're bringing joy to somebody else, and you're driving the car.
Right. You really like this, don't you?
Man, this is my life.
So it's very interesting, because there's a lot of people that we'll have on the show, and I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. You could tell who's just kind of putting on airs and who truly loves what they do. You really dig this stuff, don't you?
I mean, literally, the dealership is open Monday to Saturday, but I work. I mean, I literally work 7 days a week. So I mean, and but they say if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Right.
Now, go ahead.
So let me ask you. So when you look for cars, right? Because the dealership is big. Your dealership's like 50,000 square feet or something like that, isn't it?
135.
135,000 square feet. Oh my God. Okay. So
indoors.
So obviously that's a massive space, and you have to fill this. How do you find cars? How do you go about the process of procuring cars? And then, do you have standards? Because I mean, as an enthusiast, as somebody who collects, we all look for different things, right? We look for projects, we look for drivers, and we look for full restorations that we can just get in and enjoy, so to speak. So when you look for cars, do you look for a combination of those three?
Definitely. So we're looking to buy stuff every single day. So that's what I'm doing. When I tell you I'm working, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking to buy a car 7 days a week. That's my gig with the dealership.
Roger that. Okay.
Finding the cars, building relationships, making sure each transaction is professional, efficient. Right. We buy cars all across the country. So if somebody's looking to buy their car, literally we could be on a conversation, and in half an hour, we've got them, the bill of sale done, paperwork, a wire transfer sent, or overnighting a cashier check, and buying their car. So that's really the deal, is that we buy them across the country. And so because of that, it's easier to source inventory for the whole dealership.
Wow. Okay. That's rad. That's very cool. So when you hear of a car, like say if somebody calls you and they're like, I found, I've watched a bunch of videos, and I think the videos are great. We're going to talk about that. But like, say you find say you find a 300 SL just sitting in the garage somewhere and it's a rat or whatever the case is. You're like, hasn't moved in 25 years. How much research and do you do it personally, or do you have a research department? How much research do you go through to make sure that the car is exactly what it's supposed to be, right?
So that's not a cheap car. That's an expensive car. So
Right.
that car, I would jump on a plane and fly right out there.
You would. Okay.
Yeah. So that,
Okay.
I mean, that's you know, 6-figure plus car. I mean, that's, you know, an up there car. So it's not, that wouldn't be a car that I just say, hey, you know what, I'll buy it over the phone, because it could be 500,000, 800,000. It could be $1 million purchase, depending on the car. So that would be a, hey, I'm nice to meet you. I'm on my way. And then I do all the homework myself. Check if it's matching numbers, original colors, and make sure everything makes sense.
Does that intimidate you at all? Because obviously, you know, if you're not in the car world, right? When you tell somebody, well, a classic car could be 70,000, they're like, oh my God, that's an enormous amount of money. And it is a big chunk of money. However, knowing that a lot of these classics go into the millions upon millions of dollars, does that ever?
They just sold that car at auction for 143 million.
It's insane, right? When you think about that for an automobile, it's does that ever intimidate you when you go to look at a car, or when you talk to people about cars and you find kind of that gem where you're like, oh my God, this could be a one of whatever. Is that an intimidation for you, or not really? Or does that get you excited?
It just gets me. So that's the thing. That's the reason I can't sleep.
Okay.
You know, just because it's like I obsess over my work and what I'm going to do and what's going to happen next. And it just gets me excited.
Okay. I gotcha. Let me ask you this. Do you enjoy, because that's a deal, you're hunting for cars, right? You get to enjoy them. But do you enjoy dealing with the customers as well? Like, is there a portion of the business, whether it's hunting for cars, restoring cars, or dealing with customers, that you enjoy more than the other? Or do they all just kind of coincide with each other?
So I buy all the cars. So it's the most interesting people. I mean, the stories you hear, it's really incredible. And to hear the history of the car, like I told you, when you drive a classic car in the beginning, you know, you drive a classic car and someone sees it, it brings back so much nostalgia. So every time I'm buying a car, it's also, it's a bittersweet too, because people, they don't want to let their car go, even if they're getting more money than they wanted. It's not just about the money. Sometimes it's about, hey, there's emotion involved here too. So there's that too, you know, where I feel them, because this started, it's a business, but I do this for a passion. So I understand what they're dealing with. So I enjoy dealing with the customers. And I guess the most exciting moment is, you know, opening the garage door, or receiving the photos of their car. They've been telling, hey, I'm going to send it to you next year, or the photos are coming, they're coming, and you finally receive them. It's just like, you know, it brings so much, it's just so exciting.
No, that's why I said earlier, I mean, I can tell that you really enjoy this, because like, as somebody who just lives and breathes cars, right? If I'm not wrenching on cars over the weekend, or buying cars, or driving cars, or talking about cars, or work, it's just what we do, right? As kind of as car guys. Do you have a mark that you personally kind of gravitate to, that you'd like, oh, that's, whether it's Lincoln or Jaguar or Ferrari or you know, Porsche? What do you as Alex love? What is your favorite thing?
So I really love European cars. That's really like, but when I hear myself saying that though, I even love a Mustang coupe. I mean, it's not the most expensive car, but it's not just about the money. I mean, you know, all different cars bring a different thing. Like you see a Ferrari, you just, 60s Ferrari, like that just looks so classic and elegant, and of course expensive. But then you see a 60s Mustang, a coupe, just a coupe, and you're like, wow, beautiful. Wow, look at the lines on that car. So it's hard to really say one particular car, because I can obsess over a car and want to buy it so badly and have it and get it, and then we get it, and then it's kind of like, oh wow, look, a fastback just came in, you know. So it really depends on what's going on. I don't have a specific car, but there's so many.
So for you, it's got to be like sensory overload. I mean, with 135,000 square feet, do you just walk around like the showroom at times and just go, oh my, it's like, it has to be like walking through the world's biggest Hot Wheels box, right? As a child.
Definitely.
It has to be. It's got to, do you ever sit back and just be like, I can't believe I do this for a living?
Yeah. And by the way, I literally was thinking about a couple of days ago, I was like, I don't know if I would have jumped in, if I would have known it was going to be this much, like morning till night, every day. I love it, but I mean, I don't even really take breaks. And so it just really become my life. And when I walk around the dealership, it's just like, this is incredible.
Okay. So now let me ask you this, right? Because you do get everything in. What trends are you seeing in the market, right? Because I look at cars, I look at cars every day. I look at, before I go to bed, I'm 300 to 500 cars in, looking at every website, looking at everything, right? Wow. And I buy and sell and in fact, I just bought a car yesterday. But it's
what did you buy?
74, a barn find, 74 E-Type Jag, 5-speed V12, all there, aubergine over tan. Like we'll talk more after this. And
hopefully, yeah.
But yeah, I look for everything. And for me, it's a little bit of the hunt. It's a little bit of the experience. It's a little bit of, being in a position to be like, oh my God, I think I can get my hands on that. And I think I can enjoy it. And I think for a lot of people, it's not about, for me, keeping a vehicle forever at times. It's about enjoying as many as I possibly can before I die. What was that like to drive? What was that like to own and experience? What was that like to work on and play with? And to your point, the reactions of people when they see them, right? Like you roll around, you roll through LA, right? In a 60s Lincoln, you're a champion. Everybody looks at you, just won. You won the day. Right?
If it's a guy driving $1 million Enzo of a Ferrari, $1 million Ferrari, or somebody driving, $5,000 Honda, they're giving you a thumbs up.
Right. Exactly. So, all right. So with all the cars that come in and out of the showroom and your knowledge of cars, do you look at trends? Like, will you say, okay, I think this is going to pop next based on what I've seen in the last 6 months at auctions or at this or at that. And do you see, so like we always talk about like the pre-war cars, like the brass era cars. Obviously, people will always say, well, there's a decline in that market, but then routinely you see them going for massive dollar amounts.
Right.
Do you see any decline in that market, or say the pre-1950s or things like that? Or do you think the market is steady? What's your take on that?
It's interesting. I was just talking about this yesterday. It's interesting you say that, because yes, the market's changed. That's a fact. That's a fact. But still sell, like you're saying, that set records and are just, you kind of don't even expect it. But I have seen the market change just because the people are getting older.
Sure.
And I've seen the same change has happened from cars I would never buy before, from the 80s, I mean, even late 70s, 80s.
Sure.
90s. I would never buy those cars. And now there's a big market because people are getting older, and other people are, both sides are getting older.
Yeah, that's right. So based on that, are you finding yourself being like, 5 years ago, I never would have looked at, like, say, an 87, like IROC Camaro, right? Because you used to be able to pick those up for $3,500 all day. And now all of a sudden they're 10, 12, 15, 18, 20 grand. Right. So will you start looking at stuff like that and going, okay, I think I'm going to start stockpiling these or grabbing these up?
Definitely. I mean, at least maybe start with one and see how that goes.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the videos you do on your YouTube channel. And your YouTube channel, for anybody out there, you could just go to Alex Manos, Manos, on YouTube, right? Look up your name on YouTube and channel comes up. So Alex makes videos on a lot of the cars that he has coming through the showroom. But what's really interesting is that the content that you create, you don't sell, which is interesting. You inform and you entertain, and you take people on this little micro adventure of what this car is and how it makes you feel, which I think is such a, when we talk to dealers and people who buy and sell, a lot of times it's just a hard sell. You don't do that. You bring people kind of into your little microcosm of experience in these cars, and you seem to be able to get them pumped up to say, I need to experience that in one way or another. I need to experience. And I have to say, well done, because they're just fun little videos to watch, man. You do a great job at them.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think it's just, I guess I want to share my experience. Like if you see a video on there where I show you the experience of buying a car, I just want to kind of, that, hey, this is the car, this is our story, and here it is. So we kind of no, for one, I can have that for the future myself to remember these moments in life too that I'm sharing with the world, but I also want to have for myself too for later times. It's not always just about selling. You know, like I said, they started as a passion. So some of it is just I want to share the experience. A classic car, it's not just about. I literally was born in an ambulance. And that's a true story. So I'm always been in a rush my whole life. Like, what am I doing next? What am I doing next? And a classic car, it's really not about the destination. It's really about the experience. You got to be okay if you get a flat tire. You got to be okay. Excuse me. You got to be okay if the radiator overheats. I mean, that's just part of the experience. It's not about just getting to mom's house to have dinner. It's like, how do you get there? And that's kind of what happens with the videos. You know, it's just like, let's share the experience of what happens.
Yeah.
If this, you like this, or this feels like this embodies you, you don't have to just get it from me, or you could get it from anybody. But hopefully my passion for the culture spreads.
Yeah, and it does. I think they're really well done. So now let me ask you this. We touched on very briefly on kind of pre-war stuff and on stuff from the 50s and stuff. When you see the new cars, if you see a new Ferrari or a new Lamborghini or a new McLaren or whatever the case is, you see how technically advanced they are, a Ford GT or something along those lines. Do you think that they, in 50 years, that they will be collectible? And do you think that people will still be able to work on them and that you'll get, because there's, I mean, like an old Ferrari or an old Jag, if you have a good set of tools and some know-how, odds are you can keep it running, right? Because they're not rocket science. They're mechanical, tangible objects that you can really touch with no computers or electronics. Now things are getting so advanced. As someone who looks at these cars, who buys and sells, does that worry you, or does that make you look at these cars and go, how are these going to be serviced in 10, 12, 50 years? Like, is there a business model there for that?
You mean for the late model, for the stuff that's coming out now?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that I personally, I feel like classic cars are going to be there forever. Whether we go all electric.
Yeah.
I feel like classic cars are always going to have a life with us because of, like you said, they're just they're a unique specimen. You can work on them yourself and you can get them going. On a brand new Ferrari or a McLaren. You better call Google and have them. I mean, it's not the same thing. You can't just get in the garage and work on them. It's just like, whoa. So I feel like if the world said, hey, you know what, everything is electric now, you're not allowed to have a special car. Everyone has to have these, like, let's just say every car was a square now. And that's the car everyone got, and it's like Blade Runner, and it's just, that's how it is. Those cars I don't think would be so unique because it's just another computer.
Yeah. That's stuff that I always wonder about, because
who knows,
Yeah, I just always try to think about it and go, are there going to be technicians, like, will you be able to work on like an SF9 or whatever the newest Ferrari is with all its computers? Or is there kind of like, will there be a stopgap, say the early 2000s, when you could still kind of take cars apart and put them back together again? Like, is there going to be some period in time where they say, well, there was some pretty cool stuff built from, say, 2010 to 2030, but then everything just got too complicated, and now we've got this 30-year period where you can't collect because you can't work on them. So they basically become either garage art or like lawn. You know what I mean? I was just kind of wondering about that.
No, I have no problem with putting, as long as I get a bigger living room, I got no problem with putting one in my living room.
So when Beverly Hills Car, when you first started this, how many cars did you start with?
We started with one.
You started with one. What was the car?
Another Lincoln.
Was it really?
Yeah.
So were you like driving your car and somebody came up to you and said, is that for sale? And then all of a sudden you went, wait a minute.
So the first one, that's exactly what happened. The first car was a sedan. And then in my eyes, if you lived in America and you were successful, you had a convertible. So when I got the right offer, I couldn't refuse for the sedan. I sold it. And then I found the cheapest Lincoln convertible, a 61, that needed to be restored. And I spent a year restoring that car.
Okay.
And when I was done restoring that car, I'm not kidding you, I had the car for 1 hour. I'm driving the 1 hour. I'm driving the car down Sunset. and a guy pulls up next to me that happened to own a casino in Las Vegas. And he said, pull over, pull over, pull over. So I pull over and he ends up, I end up selling him the car. And the next day he says, come to my house. I want to show you, I have a collection of cars. I would love you to work with me. Would you be willing to do any of this? And I just got finished and did a whole year restoration.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, I have another car. Would you be willing to restore it for me? And then I want to buy this and I want to do that. And next thing you know, it's like, there's a business going on.
So you have no problems diving in and getting your hands dirty on stuff either.
I mean, you know, I might dive in and then be like, oh man, this is a headache, but I'm not afraid to jump in.
Okay. I got you. Gotcha. That's really, really cool. I'm always very interested in kind of the origin stories of things. And I think that a lot of times when people talk to resellers and stuff, they think that this stuff just happens, and it never just happens. Nothing is a success overnight. There are years and years and thousands upon thousands of hours that go into building a reputable business and being able to build a reputation to go out and procure certain vehicles, right? We all know that because everything in this business is a relationship, as you and I both know very well.
Right. And it's tough too. It's not an easy business.
Oh no, absolutely not. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I mean, it's like, it's a roller coaster. You know, there's ups and there's downs, and even though, you know, you can have a brand new car, you know, you can have a Lincoln Continental, for example. You spend all this money fixing the top, and then the top stops working. I mean, it's like, I don't understand. Everything was done on it. Well, how come it's not working? Some stuff could be so frustrating. You know, you just keep fighting at it, and every day showing up, and, you know, each day, I feel like each day gets easier.
Gotcha. Okay. So one last question for you. What's one car that you've always had, or that you've owned, that you let get away, that you never wanted to, and that you want back? Is there anything that sticks in your mind? So
I just share an experience with you.
Okay.
So I bought a 1967 330 GT 2+2.
Oh, wow.
Had like 18,000 miles. I bought the car in 2011. Had the car, bought it for 85,000. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep this car. But it was more in the beginning stages of the dealership. And I got an offer of 90,000. So I was making $5,000. I was like, wow, it's a great return. I'm going to sell the car. Sold the car. Happened to be a rock star. I'm not going to mention his name. Became friends with the guy. He shipped it to England. Sells it 2 years later for 390,000. Okay. Oh. So I don't regret it. I don't regret it. But the car was so, when I got the car, I said, you know, I'm not going to sell this car. The miles are so low. It's original. It was like original paint. I mean, this was like the car to keep. So it's not that I regret it. I'm happy for him, but you learn from each experience.
Yeah.
You know, and now I have a Mercedes going that I haven't sold. So
right.
It's not going to be, it's not for sale.
Good for you. Good for you, man. And you know what? It's interesting. I agree with that. You know, I think we have cars that come through our lives that for some reason connect. Like I have a couple. I have an old 68 Charger and a 69 Daytona, and those are cars for me that I've had for almost 20 years. Right. And they've, you know, quadrupled in value, whatever the case is. And I have people coming up all the time saying, do you want to sell this? Do you want to sell this? And my answer is always no. And we've gotten some obscene offers, especially in the past couple of years. But it's interesting. Like I think there were cars that come through the garage, come through the showroom that you experience and that you say, it's out of my system. It's good. I've experienced it's out of my system. And then some that just stick with you, that you just say, nope, this is unless I'm going to be destitute, this car is staying with me. You know,
it's not about the value. You know, it's about the item. Like you said, you've gotten incredible offers on like your Daytona, and it's like it's not the money. Yeah, even if you sold it, you could buy another one, but it's not. It's like you have the one you want. It's here. Right. I like this piece. You know, this does something for my life. It makes me. So that brings me to another quick question. I apologize. So will customers come to you, speaking about the emotional standpoint, will they come to you and be like, Alex, I've been looking for this car forever. I can't find it. Will people come to you and say, I need you to, you might not have it, but can you find me my dream car? So people say that to us all the time, but I specialize in such a large array of stuff. So if they're specific and they say, hey, I really want a XYZ.
Yeah.
And that's not, that might be out of what we really buy.
Yeah.
I got so much going on that I can't really source it for them. But if they're in the parameters of what that I look at every day, the same as you, you know, you're looking at so much stuff that if it's in those parameters, then right away I'm like, oh, there it is. Like a friend of mine, he's like, yeah, I'm dying to buy an Aston Martin DB6. If you ever find an automatic, which is unusual, but they come up. And so he told me 2 years ago when I bought one, and I said, I got your car. So it depends. It depends if it's in the area and realm I'm in, definitely. Then it's easy to find, because it's like, otherwise, if they let me know and then I'm looking and I come across it, I'm like, okay, there it is. And then I can let them know. But you know, there's so much going on a day-to-day basis. It's hard to keep up with everything from Instagram to the world.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. All right. So based on that, where can everybody find you? Where can they find your social media tags, YouTube videos, anything and everything that is Beverly Hills Car Club and Alex Manos? Where do they go?
Okay, so the Beverly Hills Car Club, you can find it at the BeverlyHillsCarClub.com.
Okay.
The Instagram for Beverly Hills Car Club is at Beverly Hills Car Club. And for Alex, for me, it's Mr. Alex Manos on Instagram. And that's where you find us. And on YouTube, it's Alex Manos, Classic Carman.
Classic Carman. Well done. Okay. That's right. Well, dude, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I think it's always cool to have somebody that's kind of embedded in the industry and that can talk about not only the procurement of cars, but you know, the enjoyment that they not only get from putting people in the seats of their dream cars, but also kind of the hunt and how it makes people feel emotionally. And dude, you are without question one of the most passionate people we've had on this. This has been fun. This has been really fun.
That's right. That's when before we started, I said, you know, how long is this going to be? Because I mean, I could sit here with you.
Oh, dude, if we go off on tangents, we'll be here for 7 hours. You know, the cool part is I need to come because I've never been to your showroom. I am going to be down in LA in 2 weeks. Really? I have to come by and I need to see. 100%. Yeah, I need to come down there because
it's a sight to see. I mean, even I want people just to visit, just to experience it, because it's like we have a Delahaye there that it needs to be restored. It hasn't been. It's like you can't even see that in a museum. It's an unrestored Delahaye that's sitting there, and then we'll have like a $9,000 Datsun. And then we have a $1 million 300 SL. So it's just there's something for everybody just to see.
Do people come in? Do people come in and just look through at, like, is the showroom open to the public or is it private? It is.
Yeah.
Okay. So if people come in, they can go down, they can walk. It's got to be like walking through. I mean, it's got to be like a smaller Peterson museum almost to an extent. No,
it's literally a museum. There's at the Peterson, there's no dust. We have some dust. Okay. So it's like, it's an industrial feel, and you walk in a small door, and then you can go on a 10-minute tour. I mean, that's walking. I don't mean stopping. If you stop, you'll be there the whole day. On Saturdays, we have hundreds of people visiting.
That's fantastic. That's great. So, I mean, for any, and where exactly is the dealership located?
So we're 5 minutes past downtown in East LA.
East LA. Okay, very good. And anybody who wants it, they can go to BeverlyHillsCarClub.com, find the address if they want to come down and view it.
And everybody's welcome. You don't have to buy a car. You can just come in and enjoy the experience.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, sir, thank you so much for coming on the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast.
I really appreciate you.
Yeah, real pleasure talking to you. We got to have you back on again soon, because I think we're going to have you back on, and then we're just going to have to kind of go on our little tangents that I know we both want to do, and talk about more car stuff. So, dude, thank you again. And we will be talking to you really soon. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Manos, Beverly Hills Car Club. Dude, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast and hit that subscribe button, and we'll come to you every week.